So just finishing up the first day on the S2000, I didn't get all that far. I did a complete wash of the car with half of my regular car soap and half with dish soap, just so I could strip any sort of sealant or wax that may be left on the paint. And then I went through and clayed the entire car. I did the rear quarters on both sides. I took the hardtop off with the help of a friend and did all around the edge on the bottom part, so that anywhere that would be covered by the hardtop is coated, and I could do the rest of the work without assistance from anybody else. I also did the trunk and the wing because that was fairly easy to do. I did have a 50-50 shot of that one just because it was directly down the middle and we could see the before and after was an amazing effect. Tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the hardtop as well as the rear bumper and then start on removing more of these cone marks here. This is really going to take the longest, as this is going to be filling up my pads the most if I don't tackle it properly. Because the cone marks are so deep into the actual paint, it's a little difficult to remove them. I've tried a lot of things to get these off today. I've tried using a lot of clay. Clay doesn't work so well, it only works a little bit. I've tried running it over with a pad. I ended up destroying a microfiber cutting pad. And the only thing that I found really works well is goof offs. This does the best job. You just put a little bit on your microfiber and rub it on the area, and then the tire marks will come off because it's a rubber and it sticks to the car like an adhesive. It's kind of difficult to get off without using the right material, so try to use the right product and you'll avoid a lot of headache.
After removing the cone and tire marks from the paint, I went ahead and removed the carpet stains on the mat as well as cleaned the embroidery.
So I just wanted to quickly go over what I'm doing with this car. I'm doing a full paint correction followed by a ceramic coating. Now, ceramic coating, as we see here, is not the same as a regular wax. We can't just apply it on top after we clean the car. We actually need to do a full paint correction. And to do that, on certain panels it requires some more work, certain panels it requires less cutting power. So I have a selection of polishing pads, cutting pads, and microfiber pads here that are all going to be doing a different job. In order to find what cut is right for you, you really need to inspect the paint as well as have a good balance of a mixture between light and heavy cuts, both with pads and your compounds. Now I have the cover on the top part of the car and the parts that I've already done just because those have already been coated. And since it's pretty windy outside today, I really want to minimize how much nature fallout is getting blown onto the car because I can't really spray it off with water because ceramic coating takes some time to cure. Unfortunately, I don't have a garage to work in for this project. Normally you would want to be applying ceramic coating only in controlled environments, but this is the best I can do. Do one panel at a time and then cover it up when you're finished. For this particular panel, it hasn't taken too much damage. Most of the beading was at the lower end and on the doors just because of whatever's kicked up by the tires as well as the cones. So I'm just going to take a light pad as well as a light polishing compound. Meguiar's Ultimate, you use whatever you want. Pad's already primed, just putting a couple lines on here. And here we go.
Here, I used a light polishing compound with a white microfiber pad. This is all I needed for this panel. Naturally, I won't be able to tell you what you can use on every single car because the paint's going to be different. So find what works best for you with a small test spot and use that to correct the rest of the panel. You'll have to test each panel to make sure that you're using the right amount of strength without going overboard, because otherwise you'll be backtracking, trying to clean up what damage you just put into the paint. Also, note the tape that I have placed on the bumper and the lip of the fender. I put tape here to remind me that there are problem spots here. The paint was flaking a bit, so I did not want to catch the end of it with my buffer and cause more problems for both the owner of the car, as well as contaminate the pad.
So after just one pass with a light compound and a light polish, very light pressure, it looks actually pretty decent. This is going to be good enough. This is probably going to be good enough to do the entire panel, maybe the hood, maybe the bumper like this as well. Okay, so now that the paint has been corrected to satisfaction and I've done the alcohol wipe down, I'm going to start talking about the ceramic coating itself. So this is kind of nasty stuff, and this is Sequart CQ UK. It's nasty stuff to be inhaling. If we take off the cap, we can see that all the liquid dries around this edge. This is what you'll be inhaling if you don't wear proper protection. You're always recommended to be wearing gloves when you handle ceramic coating, as well as a respirator. This is the bare minimum you should be using. You should be using a full mask that has charcoal canisters, to be honest, but this is all I have for today. And since we're outside, we're not really in that close of an environment, so I think this should be okay. The use of ceramic coating is very similar to my wheel video, but I will be going over it again here. So I've got a gloved up right hand as well as a left, and I'm putting my respirator on. Inside this junky microfiber towel, what I have is the CarPro application block. It's just a foam block that is going to help you put down some even pressure. Try to find a clean spot that isn't dried and that doesn't have too much fallout on it. So what you're going to want to do is just open the bottle, have the towel wrapped neatly around, the foam block. Normally you would be using micro suedes, but I'm all out of them. So I'm going to be using a throwaway microfiber towel. These are good because there are so many different places you can use. Once one spot gets used up, then you could just move the block to another part of the towel. But in any case, what you're going to do is take your ceramic coating, make a few lines down the middle, and this should really be all you need to coat the entire panel. This may be even a panel and a half worth of coating. I've done about 6 or 7 cars with this one bottle, and you can see that there's still a ton left. So now that our applicator is ready to go, all we're going to do is be making even strokes back and forth to ensure even application. Ceramic coating is very important to have even application because we want to make sure that we minimize high and low spots. High and low spots are going to show up afterwards if you do not buff them off properly, and high spots are a bit harder to buff off than if you had just applied it evenly the first time. So we want to go in one direction, and then we want to take our hand, turn it 90 degrees, and go the other direction afterwards, just to ensure even coverage. Go around the entire panel and do this. As you apply the product, you should be seeing a slight haze start to show up on the paint surface. You want to make sure that this is minimized. You don't want to have any really heavy spots. After this is all done, then give the car about 5 minutes or so to set, depending on how hot it is outside and whether or not you are in a temperature controlled area. I'm outside, the sun's going down a bit, so I'm going to be giving it about 3 to 4 minutes before I start to buff everything off. So here's just a closer look of what the paint should look like with the coating applied. It should just be very hazy and with slight streaks to it, but you should be able to see your back and forth hand movements as you try to apply it evenly. Alright, now this has had a few minutes to flash over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my included CarPro chamois. You can use any microfiber for this, but this is probably the best to use since it was included. And you're just going to buff it off like a wax. Move your head around a lot to try to get as good of a viewing angle as possible. Sometimes seeing the haziness is a little difficult depending on the lighting you're working in. And try to get everything. If you're not able to get it all, then get your CarPro reload that you would have bought separately or as a kit and spray it on top. You can use it as an agent to help you remove it, and it'll also apply another layer of protection on top. Now, as the ceramic coating is still drying, do not get it wet for about 24 hours. I'm going to be putting the car cover on and just letting it sit overnight after this is all done. Alright, so this panel is now coated and completely protected, and I just want to take the time to explain what the difference is between an insulator wax like Colonite 845 and the ceramic coating. I've had a couple people ask if I could just apply the ceramic coating to their car after it comes back from detail shop. The long and short of it is no, you can't. Unlike the waxes or synthetic sealants, it doesn't have any fillers, so if there's any scratches on the surface, this won't fill it in. You'll still see the scratch through it. It'll be a protected scratch, unfortunately. But if you want to have something that will actually mask it, traditional wax or a synthetic sealant is probably better to go with. Hey guys, so it's day 4 here and I'm super excited to reveal what the car looks like underneath. I'm all done with the paint. Today I'm just going to be going through some final touches, looking at the wheels, tires, the brake calipers, and doing an interior vacuum. But without further ado, here's what the car actually looks like now. So almost everything seemed to have cleaned up beautifully. There's just a couple spots that I need to go over that had some high spots with the ceramic coating, just because it's really hard to work outside. I really wish I had a garage for this project. But those high spots are not that big of a deal. If you could get it within a day or two, you'll usually be able to rub most of them out with just a little bit of light polishing compound and some light pressure with a microfiber towel. It's a lot easier to do it with consistent lighting, so you could constantly check over your spots, but unfortunately I didn't have that available with me. But I'm just going to go over the final looks, and that's it for the detail, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.